Stop for a second, because this is not just memory. This is not just loneliness. This is not one of those late-night thoughts you can explain away and forget by morning. Something about them is rising again, and you feel it. Not loudly, not clearly, but enough to disturb your peace. Enough to make old emotions move like they never really died. You tried to call it random. You tried to call it a weak moment. But deep down, you know better. Some connections do not leave quietly. They wait. They sit under your daily life like a hidden fire, and when the time is right, they start breathing again. That is why their name can hit your chest out of nowhere. That is why a song, a street, a look, a dream can suddenly feel loaded with meaning. And here is the part you cannot ignore. When someone is truly gone from you, their weight fades. It loosens. It stops reaching into your body like this. But when the energy stays active, when the feeling keeps returning with force, something unfinished is still alive. So listen carefully, because this is where most people lie to themselves. They say they moved on, but maybe they did not move on at all. Maybe they just got better at carrying what still hurts. Maybe they learned how to stay busy, how to stay distracted, how to look calm while something inside them kept waiting. And if that is you, then stay with me, because the sign is not what you think it is, and what comes next may explain more than you are ready to admit. You did not heal the way you tell yourself you did. You arranged the pain so it would stop shouting. You organized it, hid it under routines, buried it beneath work, conversations, new interests, forced smiles, and all the little habits that help a person survive what they never truly faced. On the outside, it looked like peace. On the inside, it was control, a controlled silence, a trained numbness, and for a while, that seemed enough. But silence is not the same as release. Just because the pain stopped speaking every day does not mean it disappeared. It means it learned how to wait. That is why certain nights feel heavier than they should. That is why your mind can drift back to them even when you are doing something ordinary, something that should have nothing to do with the past. And the strange part is not just that you think about them. It is how alive those thoughts feel. They do not come like dusty memories. They come with heat, with pressure, with emotional charge, as if something in you has been touched from far away. And no, that does not mean you are weak. It does not mean you are dramatic. It means something inside you was never fully settled. People like to talk about closure like it is a clean ending, a sentence, a final door shutting. But your inner world does not work like that. It does not care about neat words or brave speeches. It cares about what was lived, what was left hanging, what was never finished. So if their presence still feels close in moments that make no sense, if their memory still enters your body before it enters your mind, then what you are dealing with is not overthinking. It is unfinished movement, and unfinished things do not stay quiet forever. That is why the real disturbance is not that you miss them. It is that they seem to return in your mind with timing that feels almost deliberate. Strange hours, random days, moments when you should be fully somewhere else, and yet there they are again, not just remembered, but felt. This is what unsettles you, because it does not feel passive. It does not feel like a dead chapter you happen to reopen. It feels active, like something underneath thought is moving before your thoughts can catch up. Most people ignore that. They call it nostalgia. They call it emotional weakness. But some memories do not repeat because you are broken. They repeat because something in you never reached the end of the experience, and when that happens, the mind does not simply let go. It circles back, again and again. It replays, it searches, it tries to complete what was interrupted. That is why the emotional loop stays alive long after the relationship, The contact or the story itself seems finished. And if two people were caught in the same unfinished pattern, the feeling does not always vanish cleanly on both sides. It lingers, it builds pressure, it waits for the right opening. So ask yourself the question you keep pushing away. Why now? Why are they louder now? Why does their energy feel closer now? Why does your chest react before your logic does? Because something has shifted. You may not have proof yet. You may not have a message, a call, or a visible sign. But the inner shift comes first. It almost always does. Before the person returns physically, something starts moving psychologically. That unease you feel, that low, restless pull, that sense that something is about to happen even though you cannot explain what. Maybe that is not fear at all. Maybe it is recognition. Maybe something in you already knows the door is not as closed as you pretended. And here is where it gets more uncomfortable. Because what you are sensing may not be only them. It may be what they still represent inside you. Unfinished emotion, unanswered questions, truths you never said, parts of yourself that only came alive in that connection and never fully found a home after it ended. That is why the conflict feels so sharp. One part of you says, do not go back there. You remember the pain. You remember the confusion. You remember how unstable it made you feel. But another part, quieter and more honest, does not fully reject it. That part still leans toward them, still wonders, still listens. And that inner split is the real sign. Because when someone is truly gone from your emotional system, the pull ends. The fight ends. There is no tension between staying away and wanting more. There is only absence. But absence is not what you are feeling. You are feeling friction, a mental push and pull, a subtle war between self-protection and desire. And friction means energy is still alive. The mind does not reopen old doors for no reason. It does not stir real attachment without a trigger. It does not light up buried emotion unless something somewhere has started moving again. That is why you catch yourself imagining contact, thinking about reaching out even if you never do, playing scenes in your head you have not visited in months, maybe years. That is not just sentiment, that is activation, and activation matters. Because once something becomes emotionally active again, it begins shaping your thoughts, your dreams, your mood, even your attention. So if this is hitting hard, do not click away yet, because the strongest part of this is not behind you. It is in what your mind has already started preparing for. The deeper truth is not only that they might return. It is that something in you is becoming ready for that return. Not openly, not in a way you would proudly admit. On the surface, you might still say no. You might still repeat the story that protects you. You might remind yourself how badly it hurt, how messy it was, how impossible it felt. But underneath that, something is softening. The anger is not as sharp. The blame is not as clean. The picture of them is changing. You are starting to remember them as human, not just as the person who hurt you. And that shift changes everything, because once your inner picture of someone changes, your emotional door changes with it. You become more available, even if you do not mean to, more receptive, more open to the possibility you once swore you would never allow again. And that reopening is rarely loud. It happens quietly, in the way you stop resisting the thought of them, in the way you no longer turn away the second they appear in your mind, in the way your pain becomes mixed with curiosity and your resistance becomes mixed with longing. That is how the door opens, not dramatically, psychologically, and once that happens, the connection is no longer sleeping. It is active again. This is why random reminders start to feel more intense, why dreams feel too real, why little coincidences start getting under your skin. Because once the bond becomes active, your awareness begins to notice every echo of it. And maybe the hardest part to admit is this: part of you does not want the feeling to stop. Because if the feeling stops, then the possibility stops too. And if the possibility stops, then you may finally have to accept that nothing more is coming. So instead, you stay half open, half defended, half hoping. And that half-open state is powerful. It invites return, or at least the idea of return, to keep living inside you. What makes this even more intense is that the connection was never just about them as a person. It was about who you became with them. That is the part few people are honest enough to face. You did not only lose someone, you lost a version of yourself, a version that felt more alive, more seen, more exposed, more intense, more emotionally real. Maybe that version of you was softer, maybe it was wilder, maybe it was more hopeful, more reckless, more open to feeling everything without filters. But when they left, that version did not leave cleanly. It was pushed down, hidden, replaced by someone more guarded, more controlled, more careful. You survived, yes. You adapted, yes. But in adapting, something inside you went quiet. And now that quiet part is waking up. That is why the return of their memory feels bigger than memory. It is not only about seeing them again. It is about touching that lost version of yourself again. And that is exactly why the pull can feel almost impossible to explain. You are not only drawn to them, you are drawn to what they unlock in you. The openness, the ache, the hunger, the emotional truth you cannot fake with anyone else. Stay with this, because this matters. When a person becomes tied to parts of you that remain unfinished, they stop being just a person in your inner world. They become a symbol, a mirror, a key to rooms in yourself you have kept closed. And once someone holds that place inside you, time alone does not erase it. Distance alone does not erase it. You can go months, even years, without contact and still feel the circuit light up when something touches the right nerve. That is why their absence can feel present, because what they represent in you never fully disappeared. It just waited, and when something waits that long, it does not return gently. It comes back with pressure. It shakes the story you built about being fine. It exposes the weak spots in the identity you created after the loss. Suddenly, the version of yourself that looked stable starts feeling less certain. You realize you were not as detached as you claimed, not as healed as you announced, not as free as you wanted others, and maybe yourself to believe. That realization scares people. It should. Because it reveals something painful. Maybe you never truly let go. Maybe you just learned how to live around the attachment. There is a big difference. Letting go is not distance. It is resolution. And if resolution never happened, then the bond does not disappear. It circulates under the surface. It waits for the moment your defenses weaken enough for it to rise again. And those defenses are weakening. You feel it in the softness replacing your anger, in the way your thoughts return more easily, in the way you no longer need to force yourself not to think about them because you are already thinking about them anyway. This is not a failure. It is exposure. It is the collapse of the walls you built to keep the unfinished out. And once the walls crack, the emotional current starts flowing again. That is when you begin to notice patterns that feel too exact to dismiss. Thinking of them intensely and then seeing a reminder, feeling them strongly and then having a dream, wondering about them and then hearing their name somewhere random. Maybe it is coincidence, maybe not. But what matters more is how your inner system responds. It responds like something is alive, like the circuit is still firing, and if it is still firing in you, then you have to ask the question you have been avoiding. If the door opens again, are you truly ready for what walks through it? Because the fantasy is easy, the real return is not. The fantasy lets you imagine new outcomes without facing old patterns. The fantasy tells you this time it will all make sense, that the pain will finally have a purpose, that the silence will be explained, that the ending will turn into a beginning, and all the confusion will suddenly mean something beautiful. But reality is harder. Reality asks what has actually changed in you. Not what you say has changed, not what you understand on the surface, what patterns have changed, what reactions, what needs, what blind spots. Because if the old patterns are still alive, then the return will not save you. It will test you. It will expose every place where you still confuse intensity with meaning, every place where you still want emotional chaos to become proof of destiny. And that is why one part of you pulls back, not because you do not care, but because you know how powerful this can become. You know how fast one message, one look, one conversation could wake up everything you worked so hard to control. Still, another part of you wants it anyway, not because it is safe, not because it is wise, but because unfinished things create their own gravity. They keep calling for meaning. They keep asking to be lived through one more time, as if maybe this time the story will finally reveal what it was trying to teach. And that is the trap. Sometimes you do not want the person back as much as you want the pain to finally make sense. You want the confusion to lead somewhere. You want the emotional cost to give you something more than an empty ending. And that longing for meaning can keep a bond alive long after the facts say it should be gone. But the strongest sign is still not something they are doing. It is something happening in you. The resistance is fading. The emotional charge is changing shape. The story you told yourself about them is being rewritten from inside. That is the shift that makes reconnection possible. People do not always return because of timing on the outside. Sometimes they return because something in your inner world can receive them again. And whether you notice it or not, you are becoming more open, slowly, quietly, dangerously. You are not only remembering them, you are re-entering the emotional state where they can matter again. That is why your mind revisits moments with more softness than before. Why old scenes now feel sad instead of bitter. Why your body reacts with longing where it once reacted with anger. Emotional readiness often arrives before conscious permission. And once it arrives, it starts changing how you see everything. Even the past begins to look different. Not because the past changed, but because you changed in relation to it. This is the moment when many people tell themselves they are just reflecting, just processing, just passing through another wave. But listen closely. Waves do not usually carry this much structure unless something deeper is pulling them. If the name keeps echoing, if the absence keeps feeling strangely alive, if your inner world keeps circling back with fresh emotional force, then something in you is not closing down. It is opening up. And once that opening begins, the question stops being whether they are coming back. The question becomes, what part of you is making space for them now? If that question stings, good. It should. Because buried truth always hurts when it first reaches the surface. And this is the part of the story where you can no longer hide behind confusion. You have been acting like this is about a person returning. But it goes deeper. It is about the unfinished part of you getting louder, not in neat thoughts, not in clear decisions, in pressure, in emotional tension, in that tight feeling in your chest when their memory appears, in that quiet pull you feel when you try to distract yourself but your mind keeps circling back. The reason it hurts so much is because they reflected things in you that you did not fully understand at the time. Your need to be chosen, your fear of being left, your hunger to feel deeply known, your secret wish to be seen without having to explain every wound. They did not create those things, they activated them. And when they left, those parts of you were left exposed. That is why the pain was never only about losing them, it was about what their absence revealed, the emptiness, the unmet needs, the places in you that still felt incomplete. Most people call this missing someone, but that is too small. Sometimes what you really miss is the emotional version of yourself that was alive in their presence. Without them, you had to become someone more controlled, more defended, maybe even stronger, but also less open, less raw, less willing to burn for something. And now that lost intensity is rising again. That is why the split inside you feels so exhausting. One version of you says it is over, let it die. Another version says it never ended, be honest. And both feel real. Both have evidence. Both are fighting for control. That does not mean you are unstable. It means you are in conflict. Deep conflict. The kind that cannot be solved by suppression. The kind that demands a real answer. And yes, that answer may involve them. But it may also involve finally facing yourself without all the distractions you used to survive. Because unresolved experiences have a pattern. They repeat. Not because you are weak, not because you enjoy pain, but because the mind keeps returning to what it could not fully understand the first time. It wants meaning. It wants completion. It wants to know why something had so much power over you. So it brings the feeling back. It puts the connection in front of you again. It asks the old questions in new ways. And if the person actually returns, or even if the chance of return becomes real, then this will not just be about romance or timing. It will be a confrontation with the truth you avoided, with the emotions you did not let yourself feel fully, with the patterns you kept calling love when they may have also been fear, dependency, fantasy, or hunger for repair. That is why this moment is so personal, because if they come back, you will not meet them as the person you were before. You will meet them as someone more aware, more exposed, more emotionally honest. And that changes the entire experience. It means you will see what the bond was really doing to you. You will see where it healed, where it fed you, where it broke you, where it made you feel alive, and where it made you lose yourself. That kind of clarity is not comfortable. It is sharper than pain because it removes excuses. It ends the luxury of saying, "I do not know why this still has power over me." You do know, or at least you are starting to know. And once you know, you cannot go back to innocent confusion. So ask yourself this and do not rush the answer. If the chance comes, do you want closure or do you want continuation? Do you want peace or do you want to feel it all again? Be careful here. The answer may reveal more about your wounds than about your love. This is where the illusion starts to crack, because maybe you do not actually want them back in the simple way you have been telling yourself. Maybe what you really want is the self you lost when they left, the version of you that felt open, wanted, alive, chosen, emotionally expanded. And here is the hard truth. If they return, they cannot give you that version back, not fully, not safely. You will have to become that person again on your own terms without depending on them to unlock it. That is what you have been avoiding, because fantasy is easier than reconstruction. It is easier to imagine their return fixing something than to rebuild the broken parts in yourself with no guarantee, no witness, no dramatic ending. But healing asks for that. Real change asks for that. If they come back, their return will not save you. It will reveal you. Every hidden expectation, every fear you never named, every old pattern waiting for another chance to repeat itself. And that is why this moment matters more than any sign, message, or coincidence, because the biggest event is not their return. It is your readiness to see clearly, to stop romanticizing what destroyed your peace, to stop demonizing what taught you something real, to stop confusing intensity with truth. Maybe the bond was real, maybe the connection mattered deeply, maybe the timing was wrong, the ending unfinished, the emotions still active. All of that can be true. But another truth can sit beside it. You are still responsible for what happens if the door opens again.